starting the live stream.
Okay. I'm going to text Andy back to say if he can't get video, then he can just call in, maybe, that way.
Oh, looks like he's here.
Oh. Right. Oh, yep. Can you hear us, Andy? Hold on, I'm texting out. We can see him, but can't hear him. He's muted now. The wonderful world of many devices. Okay.
I think we just lost him.
Yep. He can hear us. We just can't hear him. So let's give him a minute to figure it out. Usually we have a 5-minute grace period for most meetings anyway that I attend, so make sure everybody gets called in. Excuse me. Andy, can you hear us? If you can, it's showing that you're muted.
There?
Yeah, can you hear us, Andy?
Hi.
Hey,
Yeah, Andy,
you
you're
got me now?
Yep. Okay.
Kathleen, are you the 11 number at the end?
That is me, yes.
Okay.
Okay. And Andy, can you hear us and talk?
Yeah, Andy, your audio is pretty. It's got a lot of feedback in it.
I can call. I just can't see anything that you guys put up on the screen, so I'm gonna have to walk you through it because I tried to print the agenda and it just printed the first page, so I don't know what's going on. So I'll just call from my phone and I'll do.
Okay.
I don't know what to do.
You might be able to stay on video and call from your phone too, but either way is fine.
Andy, are you going to try to hang on with the video?
I'm trying to video. I'm just gonna try to. I'll mute here.
Okay, we'll be patient because your audio is pretty rough, but we'll see if we can get through it. All right, Matt, you want to go ahead and put the agenda up? You have the.
You just want the board agenda?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want?
Yeah.
Or I can run off the my board docs, but it'd be easier if you put it up so everybody can see it, I think.
Okay. Okay, you're up.
All right, me. Hold on. For now, I'm not getting the view of the agenda for some reason. Let me. Okay, you have it up. I can run it off my separate board docs just so.
Yep.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. I'd like to call to order the April 20th Clinton Massey Board of Education virtual board meeting. Carrie, could you call the roll?
Mr. Avery? Okay.
Here. I'm
Mr.
here.
Goodall,
Yeah, I'm here.
Mr. Gorman,
Here.
Mr. Lamb,
Here.
Mrs. Norman.
Here.
All right. You would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Yeah,
of the
United States of
United
America.
States of
the
America.
Republic
To the republic for which it stands,
One nation.
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty and
with
justice
liberty
for all.
and justice for all.
There we go. All right. Next, I would motion to approve the agenda. So a motion to that effect.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
And a second. Captain, in a second.
Second. Yep.
All right. Any questions? All right. Hearing none. Carrie, would you call the roll?
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Goodall,
Yes.
Mr. Gorman,
Yes.
Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Mrs. Norman.
Yes.
Yeah. And just a quick comment, I forgot to mention at the beginning. Matt even reminded me. If you're not one of the board members speaking, please mute your line so we don't get a lot of feedback. And did we need to take a roll? Carrie, did you get everybody that joined?
I got
Before-
everybody.
Okay.
Mr. Moss just joined. Let me grab him, and then yes, I believe I have everyone.
Okay. All right. So next item is to approve the minutes. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any questions? Nope. Hearing none. Carrie, would you call the roll?
Mr. Goodall,
Yes.
Mr. Gorman,
Yes.
Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Mrs. Norman,
Yes.
Mr. Avery. Mr. Avery, you got us? Can you give me a thumbs up?
Hold on. Let me check with him, see if he's still on.
There, he's getting his glasses on.
Andy, you're on mute if you can hear us.
There you go.
So is that a yes on the approval of the minutes, Andy?
I can hear you guys perfect, but it's not working.
Okay,
I don't
now
know
we
what's
can
going
hear
on.
you. Can you give us a thumbs up if you approve the minutes? Okay,
All right. All right, we'll go ahead and move on, Andy. If there's something you need, text me and we'll stop. But all right. So next item is the treasurer's report. So Carrie, the video chat is yours.
I'd like to request approval of the financial reports for March, including the financial activity checklist and investment report as presented, and request retroactive approval of the appropriation modifications for the General Athletics Fund and the Fishing Club, which is a new club that we just started this year and a new fund that we just began. Also, I updated late a monthly financial report, and I can share that here in just a second. Here we go. Can everybody see that? Is it working?
Yes.
Voting.
Okay.
I've got it. Yep.
Okay. So this is just the main page of it, the front page. All the rest is just more details. This does not include any future savings predictions that we talked about in the PowerPoint that I sent you guys a few weeks ago. We're going to wait and kind of see how this plays out and then put the actual savings in there. So we're not predicting any savings, any changes to the state funding, which again, there's rumors about that. We're not sure how that's going to go. I just talked to Ernie from Fivecast today, and he's hearing things, but nobody can guarantee anything. Definitely, probably nothing for this fiscal year, perhaps next, but again, nothing is set in stone. So this is what we've got going on here. So we are, we're up more than for revenue, more than we forecasted, but we're a little bit less than what we had last year at this time. So that's what we're looking at right now. And I can scroll this down a little bit.
Can you, for those that I don't have video, can you go over what's different, or I'll just have to abstain when we vote?
Sure, that's fine. Basically, our revenue collection, we're up 284,000 more than what we had forecasted. Our expenditures are about 87,000 more than we forecasted. And so that's a net impact of about 197,000 on our cash balance at the end. So that's up 197,000. Our March cash balance is about 238,000 less than last year at this time, but it's 197,000 more than we forecasted. And basically that's the same number that was up above that was favorable on the cash balance there.
And Mike, this is Kathleen. This is the same document that was on the onboard docs, the monthly financial report.
Right, but she said she had changed some things late.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, like I just uploaded it today.
No, I
like
looked at the one
at
on the board
3:30.
docs, but
Okay, perfect.
at what
Yeah,
time?
at like 3:30 today, I uploaded
Okay,
this.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it is the same one. Yeah, nothing changed from that.
Okay.
It was just uploaded late. Yeah, so I didn't know if you got a chance to
Okay.
look at it or not.
No, I got that one. I thought you meant you said recently. I thought in the last few minutes.
No, just
Okay.
earlier today. Yep. And so one last thing just to discuss. Sorry, I don't know where we're getting all the feedback from. I don't know how to make that stop.
There, it stopped.
Okay. Again, at the May meeting, we're gonna have to figure out the supplementals. Now that today we got word school is closed for the rest of the year, we need to figure out. Hang on a second, here, I'm gonna go back. Okay. There we go. We need to figure out how we're going to do the supplementals. So we've got year-long supplementals to think about. We've got spring supplementals. I know no determination has been made for sports yet, but I'm sure that will be forthcoming. We've got a few winter supplementals. I just see Andy left the meeting.
I'm on the other one. Do you see me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear
That was
you, and
me.
there's no
I did all that feedback. I tried to do my phone for volume and it didn't work. So I'm on my phone with no computer. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
You sound
We're
perfect.
here now, Andy. You're good.
Yep.
all right.
Okay. So we'll have to think about the spring supplementals, the year-long supplementals. That includes like the class advisors, something that was brought to my attention today by some of the teachers were like the junior class advisors only get paid if they go to prom. We're not having prom this year, so how is that going to play? I did talk to the auditor, and basically whatever resolution you guys pass would suffice for an auditor. So pretty much it's in your hands. So we'll have to decide how we want to do that. So I'll put something on the agenda and have it delineated, and we can talk through the finance committee as well so that we have all that figured out. So you can think about it prior to the meeting and see how it's going to be listed in the agenda and figure out how you're going to vote. And then one last thing is from the Ohio Department of Education School Bus Purchase Program, we were awarded about $35,400 towards the purchase of a new school bus. So I talked to Mr. Ford. We're going to definitely buy one bus. If people don't use all the money, it'll be reallocated and we potentially could get more money. So we'll kind of see how that plays, but that's about a third of a bus purchase. So that's what we're looking at with that. So does anybody have any questions for me?
And maybe Carrie, in the May meeting, as we look at it, I'm sure that we've realized some cost savings due to less fuel expenditures and bus maintenance and things like that. So
Yes, yeah, we've potential savings just in sub costs. These,
Yep.
the little bit of March, April for sure. Now into May, potential a little bit of electricity, a little bit in fuel. maintenance, we're still going to start to work ahead on some things. So that'll be a little different between this fiscal year and next fiscal year. And then classroom supplies, we should be able to save on that since there'll be some that will left over, but I know we'll, be doing a lot of ordering as we go into the summer. So we'll see how that plays as well. But yes, we'll definitely have a much clearer picture in May, as well as a new 5-year forecast, because I'll have to upload that to ODE. So you'll have that to vote on come next month as well.
Yeah, so I think it might be good for us. Maybe finance can talk it between now and the next meeting. But if we do have some of those funds that we've saved due to less maintenance, less fuel supplies, etc., if we need to transfer that into permanent improvement type activities, or what we're going to do with that, or just put it in the bank. So that'd be something that we might want to discuss next month.
Yep, I will note that.
On the fuel and electricity and stuff, I thought we were on budget billing with those. Is there a time of year that stuff comes around that we would get back our money?
Well, with the
or,
fuel,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, with the fuel, we're on a set delivery. Steven gets that purchase price at the very beginning of the year when we did the bidding.
So when you say
for
fuel,
that.
are you talking about like gas for the school or gas for the buses?
Buses.
Right.
Buses.
Propane's a separate thing, right? Or,
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So yeah, but there'll just be less times the truck has to come and fill it up. So that will be the fuel savings, because like Hartley Oil, like we pay that monthly, like as they come and drop it off. So that will be a savings because our tanks will be full. We won't need any more dropped off.
the DP&L though is like I thought it was like on a level billing. It's like a $20,000 or $1,000,000. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Does that come up like in the summer? Every summer do we
Yeah, that's through the EPC. Yeah, our electricity is. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Carrie, I had a question. Can you kind of just highlight why the expenditures are so much more through this current school year versus last?
Yeah, just because we've had to do a lot of repair work with the chillers. We did that at the very beginning of the year.
Right.
Things in the annex. So just a lot of permanent improvements that we've been putting off for so long that now we're at a point of we've got to do it. We can't mend it any further. So, and that's something else that I know you guys might touch on with the finance committee that we discussed. Our phone system is 15 plus years old, and there for a while when we were in the thick of the school year, it was going down once a week, and we had Michael and David working on it. We had other people coming to work on it, and we're just piecing it together. We can't order that system anymore. They make no parts for it. So that's going to be an upcoming expense that we're going to have to face as well.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Carrie? All right. I would motion to approve the treasurer's report. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
In a second.
I'll second.
All right. Any questions?
Carrie,
go
do you
ahead.
need us saying who it? Sorry, do you need us saying who it is? Because I know we've got all these guys.
That's
Are you
fine.
catching them?
I'm good. I have Mr. Avery
Okay.
and Mr. Goodall.
Sorry,
That's
I
fine. Thank you. I
apologize, Jeremy.
appreciate
I didn't mean
it.
to-
No, you're fine.
didn't mean to interrupt.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Carrie, would you call the roll?
Mr. Gorman,
Yes.
Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Mrs. Norman,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Goodall.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to public content. So we don't have any recognitions or presentations scheduled, but I did want to take just a minute. And again, we've had our personnel committee meeting this week, but I just want to thank from top to bottom all the staff for everything that they've done. I believe Matt sent out the number that we were able to get in contact with 99.2% of our kids in this off time through our teachers actually reaching out, making phone calls. We were able to, within a course of a couple of weeks, turn around to this new reality we're living in with this electronic instruction. We've been able to get meals out to those in need. So again, it's something special, and it's one of the reasons that I wanted to raise my kids in this school district and be part of what I've always thought was something that was a little bit special. And I think this current issue or this crisis that we're having just proves the point that our staff is top notch, from our teachers to our custodians, bus drivers, administrators. Not only that, but our community, our kids. So I think, things like this really put things in perspective. I know being a parent of a senior, I was pretty bummed out of, originally when we went to the stay at home because I have a senior whose year was kind of interrupted. But, through this, I've taken the time to spend more time with my kids and enjoy, times that we probably otherwise wouldn't have, even though we're going through these difficulties. So I know there are several teachers that are doing the same thing with their kids, as well as, checking on the kids of the district. So I just wanted to highlight, the efforts that our staff have gone through in our community, how it's kind of pulled together during this time, and just proud to call myself a Falcon. So I'm sure that the rest of the board feels that way as well, and I know the community appreciates it. I've talked to several members here and there, even community members from other school districts who have kind of heard what we're doing and have really applauded the efforts that we've gone through. So Matt, that's a credit to you, not only you, but also the staff. So I just wanted to make sure we recognize that. There's probably not enough that we could do to say thank you, but I wanted to make sure it was made aware that the board certainly appreciates all the work that you guys have been doing.
Couldn't agree more. They've done an excellent job and more than you could possibly ask them to do at this point.
Yep. So, all right. So with that, I'll turn it over to administrative reports.
So we do have both people scheduled for the month on the line. So Mr. Seward, if you wouldn't mind taking the reins there and sharing your thoughts with the board.
Absolutely. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity. I did share again the notes with you, the board report from the high school perspective, just for reference to have it right there at the top of your inbox. Let me just first of all start off with echoing a lot of what Jeremy just said. Our staff really has been impressive and top notch. And when you think about where we were, 3-4 weeks ago, from being a brick and mortar school to really transitioning to this full-time online, innovative approach to connecting with kids in a completely new environment. So everything that was said about them is completely worthy. Their performance has been incredible. I know that we've tried to tell them that, but to hear that from all levels is very much appreciated. I heard today that, through some statistics and studies, I know there's a lot of them out there, but 80% of people are saying that, yes, our family has become closer together by this opportunity. We've been provided, new opportunities to have those conversations and memories and things with our families, but also 90% of respondents had said that they had a new appreciation for the perspective of teachers, right, and those working in the educational field. So I think that we would all echo and support those things that we've seen from our staff. Just one thing I wanted to also add on to what Carrie had mentioned earlier with that creation of the Fishing Club Fund. A lot of that was created out of necessity, and that necessity was just from the generosity from our community, even outside of our community. So I know a lot of people seeing and valuing that experience for students to get out there and connect with a pastime. That's a healthy habit, that they can take with them for a long time and learn those things. They've also been a service opportunity for our kids to give back by cleaning up that area and definitely appreciating what that pond has to offer. I know we're missing that opportunity right now during these great, summer month or spring, summer months, that our kids would really be able to catch in and reel those trophy fish. But I know that those times will come down the road, we'll be able to put it together again. But, I know one of our donations was for over $500. So we're going to take those donations and we're going to take some of those commitments from our community members and some of those local bait shops. And we're going to, offer some of these opportunities for students that maybe they otherwise wouldn't have. But I know in that first category, we also wanted to talk a little about graduation. And if you don't mind, I'm going to table that conversation and come back to it at the very end. I think it's probably the most discussion-worthy topic, as 3 of you in this room have seniors that, unfortunately enough, are going through this experience of missing out on these senior memories and experiences that a lot of us value and cherish for a lifetime. So if you don't mind, I'll come back to talk about what that graduation and recognition process will look like a little bit more at the end. And then also just some feedback and perspective from you as community members and as parents is also appreciated from us as a high school. So a lot of things going on there under that first category. I would just emphasize that our teachers are stretching their capacity in new ways. I think even you see by this board meeting, everybody's having to try new things and learn new opportunities and, challenge themselves with new platforms. And our staff have been doing that as well on a regular basis, from these virtual meetings that have been happening, from IEPs to 504 to grade level to BLT to TBT to staff to office. I mean, everybody has really just been pulling together. So once again, just a testament to their efforts. Underneath standard number 2 for instruction, I wanted to just point our attention and focus on that communication hub that portal that we've built for the high school that's linked to our website there. That one-stop shop we believe is convenient. It's great for parents and students to have transparency there as to what teachers are expecting, what's being assigned. Parents are following up for support at home. That's been outstanding from our community. I'll talk more about that in a second. But really that partnership between us and the home front has been great using that communication hub. So if you haven't visited that, it's a great resource there. I know we've got inspirational videos there. I know we've got our Spirit Week information there. We've got some YouTube links. We've got some great magazine articles. It's a great place for both parents and students to get some resources to help them during this time. Along with that there, you might see our revised grading scale. That's been mentioned in there as well about having some empathy and support for students during this transitional time. I know we don't want to see any students fail during these circumstances, and I know we're doing everything we can to make it a certainty that they are going to succeed. Under standard 3 there for resources, I would put our spotlight on our engagement team. That engagement team being led up by our counseling department, our assistant principal, Mr. Jay Reynolds, Donna Potts, Sam Barris, along with Jen Horner, along with some of our central office portion of Rachel Sams and Matt and David. I know you've been involved. So the engagement team to reach out to these students who maybe we've lost contact with, but that's a very fluid situation as these students have resources, have needs. This is the front line of getting in contact with them and seeing what we can do to support them, whether that's food, whether that's social emotional supports, whether that's counseling, whether that's things sent to them through the mail. That engagement team has really been that point of contact along with our staff. We really started this discussion by reaching out to our students. So compliment them for going above and beyond as well. And then also our help desk under there has been a great resource as student, machines break down and chargers have issues. I know as those things come along, they've been quick to respond to those. So thanks to all those guys as well there under number 3. When we turn our attention over to number 4, I'd just probably emphasize a few that have been helpful. We have a weekly staff social every Friday from 3 to 4. You can come and you can talk about anything you want, but you can't talk about work. So it's nice to connect with everybody and hear some laughter and conversations and catch up with how everyone's doing and how their families are. But it's really a great, opportunity to get our minds away. And I know this last week, there were some people that were still talking as they were making dinner well past 7 o'clock. So I know it's been a great resource for our staff there as well to just stay connected with their colleagues. Also, our office hours have been a great resource. All of our staff are making themselves available on a regular basis. That's available through the hub and through that calendar. We've asked everybody to pick a morning opportunity each week and an afternoon opportunity each week. Try to spread out their availability to students and to parents. And I know a lot of them have gone above and beyond with creating Google Hangouts and video chats and Zoom meetings and things like that, where people have been connecting with them. So really our staff, once again, just being incredible. Under number 5 with our community, I would just compliment and applaud our parents, right? Our community has been very supportive. This transition time has been a time of appreciation. I know we've recognized people along the way for doing things. I know these parents sometimes are overlooked for the balance that they're doing at home with educating students at the kitchen table, also trying to have their meetings, when they can break away as well. So thank you to them for being so supportive and appreciative and understanding and just patient with us as we work through this time. It's really been great to hear from them. A community outreach has really been another thing. Just whatever students have needed, we've been there to try to meet those needs. We mentioned a few of those things earlier, but with our Spirit Week opportunities coming up this week, our Fight Song Challenge, some of those quirky ideas are just meant to put a smile on people's faces. So we hopefully through those opportunities and outreaches, we can connect with them. So those are mainly the first 5 standards there that I've shared with you. If there's anything that maybe you would like to just recap and review, ask questions on, I didn't want to get too deep here. And then I'll come back in and maybe we could talk about some quick recognitions and spotlights. And then we'll finish up with maybe just some feedback and conversation about graduation, if that sounds fair to you all.
That's awesome. Thanks. Quick question on the office hour stuff. What kind of, involvement are the teachers getting with their office hours?
Yeah, I think that varies. I think we've seen some who will see just a handful, a couple. I think some you've seen having full classes out of those opportunities. I know, hearing back from some parents and even colleagues here, Mr. Rolfe would be one of those I know that has really been taking, this opportunity to learn new platforms and try new things at home and have quizzes and tests online. I know staff have really been making themselves available on a regular basis through those Hangouts, those Zoom meetings, and even those personal cell phone conversations and text chats.
That's great. I know my daughter's been using quite a few of those opportunities, so I was just curious how the rest of the world was doing it.
Yeah, it's really been great.
That's all for me. Thanks for all you're doing, by the way,
No problem.
and your staff.
Thank you, guys. If there's nothing else right now, I'll go into some recognitions. And as you reflect a little bit, I know we wanted to come back around with maybe just a conversation about graduation. I know that's on the forefront of a lot of your minds and my mind, and I know our community's mind as well. So when we turn our attention to just some recognitions, there are still many positive things that are going on. And I know we can't get together to hand them a certificate and maybe do that old handshake routine that we used to know. But I know we still want to keep them in thought and share them with them, that we appreciate what they're doing. So our senior Rotary, which is something we do every month, and they go to the Rotary luncheon at noon at Damon's, which is now Roosters and things like that. So that has been suspended for the time being, given that they're not having their meetings and they're not holding those ceremonies and those certificates. So we will move forward with that, of course, once they open up business and shop once again. Under there, you'll see our Students of the Month. I know a lot of those students have been referred through our staff and through some of our positive behavioral incentive systems that we have in place. So a lot of students doing positive things. We have great students and great families in our district. That's always been our calling card, that we hang our hat on. So those are just a few, 8 names there, 2 from each class that we've recognized this month, but know there are many more. We will recognize those students formally once we do have that opportunity to get back together. I would be much remiss if I didn't mention on public record here that today is 4/20/2020. That would have been the birthday of our friend and colleague, Mr. Brian P. Mudd, the namesake of our Teacher of the Month trophy. And I felt no better fitting opportunity than now to recognize our entire staff. I couldn't pick just one person that I thought, not only went above and beyond, but was doing and exemplifying all of those character traits that we know Brian Mudd had, modeled and exemplified for his teams and his students on a regular basis. So all of our staff are going to be recognized this month for everything that they've done to go above and beyond, providing those educational opportunities and those experiences, reaching new levels and trying new platforms. But the dedication, once again, that he showed is once again what our staff is seeing, and I don't think we would come to know anything less. Our student spotlight this month, I know you probably haven't seen much of what she has been doing, but maybe David would even attest and compliment her, and that would be Ashlyn Jackman. She has been meeting behind the scenes with Mr. Reynolds and myself, also with every single sport, coach, club, manager that we have that runs a supplemental activity. She is building an extension portal that reaches into the high school realm for our website, hopefully moving forward in the future next year, that'll give more transparency, more information, more follow-up, more communication into all of the opportunities that we offer to students and to our parents. So wanted to formally thank Ashlyn Jackman. I know once again, we'll recognize her more formally when we get on the record. But once again, one of our quiet leaders, somebody behind the scenes who does tremendous things. I know she would not want the spotlight shown on her, but I know that she would always have a smile on her face and probably have a quick crack of a joke. She's got that great personality that we all appreciate. So Ashlyn Jackman is this month's Student Spotlight. If you know Ashlyn, or if you have the ability to interact with her or reach out to her, she's doing a tremendous job and working for us. Then just to finish up there, just some upcoming dates, just to keep everybody involved as to what's happening there. Anything that you might have questions about as far as those schedules continue to evolve, let us know. We'll be as up to date as possible on those. But once again, just appreciate all of you as leaders of the community. Appreciate you extending yourself and stretching your capacity as well. If there's anything that we as a high school can ever do to more communicate with you and give you more direction as to what we're thinking and where we're heading, we're always just a phone call or an email away. So don't be afraid to hesitate or to reach out to us at any time. So once again, appreciate everybody here. If you have any questions, I'll leave the floor open.
So Aaron, I just one other quick thing piling on Ashlyn Jackman. She also was involved in updating the website for the Clinton Massey Foundation, the Educational Foundation, and did an awesome job. So we're going to draw that to everyone else's attention as well if you ever get a chance to check that site out.
She is an awesome young lady. Very, very special. If you don't know her, I'd love to introduce you.
All right. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, guys. Ladies.
Aaron, just briefly, I know you said you're going to table it to the end. Did you want to speak on graduation?
Yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about that. I'm sorry, Cindy, to hold you up here, but just as parents, I think we appreciate that feedback from you. I think tentatively, when you look at where we're at today, we were originally scheduled for graduation on Friday, May the 22nd. That was set to happen in the Clinton Massey High School Gymnasium, Brian P. Mudd, court. Given the guidance of the governor today, I think that obviously is going to render that impossible to happen at this time. So looking forward, I think number one, we want to communicate that we do absolutely want to and will create an opportunity to recognize these seniors for their hard work and their efforts. I think it's only deserving that we do give them that opportunity in front of their parents, in front of their community as best as possible. I did share a communication with the board here that tentatively just looked at some timelines and communications just for some feedback as a parent, as a community member, as to what you would think about, potentially moving it into June and establishing a date, what you would think about a virtual platform to have this done. I know I'll give you just a glimpse into tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I'm to be joining a webinar with Jostens. Jostens is our provider of our caps and gowns and announcements and all of those materials. They have built a platform that is free of charge to all of their member districts. It has all of the music built in, a lot of the backgrounds built in, a lot of the platforms already there. It's a plug and play platform from what we understand, but I know we're going to get more guidance on that tomorrow. So just as conversation worthy topic, as perspective from parents and community members, I wanted you to see what we were thinking and then open up the floor if there's any feedback from you guys as to what you felt was appropriate to recognize these seniors.
Aaron, what has to be said by the governor to be able to do it in June?
I think it comes down to size, number of audience members that you could fit in a defined space.
Okay.
Yeah, I think again, correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron. I think the big thing is it's the number of folks in the same confined space, right? So, I don't know if that means that, if the stay-at-home order is rescinded but there's still an issue with large gatherings, does that mean that you have to have maybe multiple sessions of smaller groups with social distancing? I don't think we really know exactly what that's going to look like at this point. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, the question's obviously on my mind, but I don't know what the right answer is because I can't predict, where we're headed with this thing. So,
I know just in education, we reference one another. We look at what others are doing for guidance. I know we look at others and some have established a date out there and say, if we can't do it by that date, then it will need to be a virtual.
Yeah.
I don't want to give optimistic hope of something happening and then crush people's dreams and we can't do it again.
Yeah.
I don't know what the best way to communicate that desire moving forward looks like.
Well, I mean, so I'll just give you again, I feel, the predicament you're in, right? And so I totally agree that if you postpone to a different date and then that date doesn't come to fruition, obviously the fallback plan would be some sort of finality, which a virtual version or whatever that may be. I totally agree with that because you don't want to be in the situation where you're always putting it back 2 weeks, because it can then become, July, August, and you're still in the same predicament. So I totally understand where you need to draw the line. So that makes perfect sense to me.
What if we looked at using our stadium and used the money that we saved by not going to Wilmington College and brought in additional bleachers and, we set the perimeters and we put tape down and said, sit here, sit here, sit here. We use the track for seating. I mean, maybe that's an option that we could do if the weather is permitting, to actually do a ceremony in June or whatever you guys are thinking. But it might be an opportunity to just use our football facility. So.
We did talk through a few scenarios where maybe there would be groups that would graduate at a time if there was a set number out there that, was a limit. Do you bring in X number of graduates and give them X number of tickets each and say, here's what we're going to do over and over again? I think everybody's just kind of unknown at this time. It's kind of, looking into a crystal ball and trying to guess at what's best and not knowing. I think outdoors definitely is an option. I think my only concern there would be any need for restroom facilities, things like that might be limited on an outdoor basis.
That's true. Plus, we don't have any handicap facilities really at all. So it's too bad we're not closer to one of the big universities. That would be perfect. So good point, though.
Yeah, I think even some of them are having a tough time. I think Cintas Center down at Xavier, I think they have closed down operation through a set date. So everybody that was inside of that date has had to cancel everything. So even some of those larger places are saying they didn't want to engage in some of those potential opportunities.
Right.
Yeah, Aaron.
So we don't
Aaron,
have to.
Oh, go ahead, Mike. No, that's all right. Again.
So we don't have to hear DeWine, because I know there was some things that when all this started was schools being closed meant no school activities. And I know since things being till fall, doesn't matter. Say there's no limit on the amount of people. We don't have to hear that schools are back open since this is a school affiliated thing, or is there some gray area in that?
Yeah, I mean,
That's a good question. Is that in session? I know he referred to in session, yeah, but you wonder if any school activity is what the spirit of what he was saying was.
Right.
yeah, and again, and Aaron and Matt and Deborah, I think to be fair to you, since we just found out today that we're closed, maybe we're going to need a few days to kind of digest exactly what the governor's words actually imply or mean by law with respect to what we can and can't do. And then based on that, then go forward with whatever the fallback date is, and then the planning for a backup virtual graduation. Because I think, Mike, you bring up a great point. I don't know, based on what's been said so far, what is acceptable and what isn't, right? It's
Right. Yeah. It's just trying to get everything out on the table so these questions.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of gray areas. So just, I don't want to set that date and realize, wait, it's a school activity, so we can't do it. So it's just something to keep in the back of our mind.
I agree, and that's the challenge here. And I think this news conference, rotational daily basis, continues to give us more insight and guidance as to what it was that was being said as expected. So I think even this week, as the governor talked today, people are going to ask, well, what about graduation? I think that's going to be on everybody's mind as we move toward May.
Yep.
Yeah, Aaron, this is Mike. So I just throw in a couple comments, obviously, because I have a strong opinion about my son missing graduation, but totally understand that the decisions that'll be made are far beyond my educational experience. I know you guys will do the right thing, but the only thing about the large gathering, that I've tried to catch him maybe once a week and just hear what he has to say. And I did, if I recall, on Friday, he specifically mentioned that I think he called it tiering, as he tiers in the different things that he's going to, get back to, start with businesses, then restaurants and so on. But he made a comment that it would be, I believe the words he used were a significant amount of time before he would allow large gatherings. I think that was on Friday. And then obviously today he talked about the school. So I think using his words, a significant amount of time is probably not going to give us a lot of leadway to slip in a graduation before June, because I think that was the words that he used. So, I'm not really sure that I have the answer, but I do think, taking from his words, it's going to be a while before he's going to lift some restrictions. But I think the large gathering things, it's going to be, it's going to be a good while. So we may need to look at something a little more virtual. And I think the problem with pushing that date out too far, and again, I know you guys know all this, but you got people leaving for military, people leaving for, jobs, starting internships, headed off to college. So we push it too far, we're going to miss those kids too. So It's a tough situation. And I don't envy the decisions you guys have to make, but appreciate the communication. That's the one thing I've continued to really love about this district. Very good communicator. So I appreciate all you guys are doing.
I appreciate that, Mike. I think, you're trying to read between the lines of what the governor's saying. I think one question I heard today was even looking out to the fall, as these seniors now transition to college in the future, will they be moving into dorms? Will they be sitting in a chemistry class of 300 kids? Will they be sitting in the student section in the fall? And the governor said, I don't have an answer for that yet. It was just premature, he felt, to even respond to those speculative questions.
So do we have a resource, that kind of, I guess, is up to date on the governor's thing? Because this obviously has to be a question that everybody's asking, right? As of today, I mean, every school district in the state of Ohio has got to be asking the same question we are. So is there any resource that we can utilize within the next couple of days to kind of say, hey, by schools not being open, does graduation count as a school activity? Kind of to Mike's point, right? And so if it's a school activity and we're closed, well, that makes it pretty simple in my opinion. And so, if that's the case, do we then need to really push it off, or do we just stick with, maybe a June 6th date or whatever that is, and say it's either it's going to be virtual. I don't know. I would like to try to communicate as quickly as we can, obviously to the parents of the district, especially those seniors, with as much accuracy as we have. And I just didn't know if we had, someone who is at the forefront of what the governor's thinking is related to the large gatherings, et cetera, or if we could take the next couple of days to try to figure that out.
Yeah, I know we have, ODE. I know the ESC is always a great resource. I think reaching out to probably the ESC first, to see what those, entities are hearing, but then reaching out to ODE for further guidance. But I would think within 24 to 48 hours, this is going to hit a lot of people's minds and they're going to want some guidance on this.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think it's fair to take a couple days and kind of, try to get a feel for exactly what that situation is going to be, and then try to communicate as accurately as we can to the parents of the district. So that seems reasonable since we just found out this afternoon. So.
Well, we will continue to be in communication as to what we hear, but we appreciate your guys' continued support. And if there's anything we can do to communicate more clearly or to give some more guidance, never hesitate to please let us know.
Will do.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks.
Seward. Mrs. Running, if you're available.
I am.
Awesome.
So as we anticipated, once the governor made the announcement that schools would not be opening again for this school year, he did make the move to cancel the spring sports. And we've been anticipating that was going to happen, and it did indeed.
Cindy, we lost your audio.
Jeremy, how about while we wait for her to return, I'll go ahead and get started on my update so we can be diligent about our time.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So whenever she returns, we'll let her jump back in immediately. Just starting off under the administrative reports, I have a few things noted there to touch base on. I'll try to make my comments somewhat brief. Strategic planning update. Basically, I just want to let you know we are continuing with that. We've talked about that with Dr. Summers, had a meeting with him. I met with David Moss and myself have sat down and gathered some items that Dr. Summers was looking for specifically. And I've already passed those things on to him. Again, David and I are also meeting about some other things that he's asking for. So we're moving forward with that. The idea is that it's still going to be a June, we'll say, distribution of that plan, which will have a lot to do with what we do for next year, obviously, as we try to implement some of these goals that we'll have coming out of that strategic plan. The greenhouse update. So I've passed on some pictures to you. I'm going to jump into those for just a moment. Those have been sent to your emails and shared with you, but for those on the live stream, I'd like to add just the visual to this as well. So as many of you know, through the BEAR grant, we were afforded a $25,000 grant for a greenhouse. We also have two additional $1,000, $1,000 from the Clinton County Farm Bureau, another $1,000 from the Warren County Farm Bureau. So we are in the process of having that erected, and it is about a week's worth away from being completed. And I have some pictures here, like I said, to display. The inside is it's pretty much enclosed at this point. Inside, I'll still have some fans, some exhaust fans that are going to be mounted. Some additional ventilation is going to be installed with sensors, and then there's going to be this screen that goes across to allow for increased sunlight or decreased sunlight, and that'll be installed here within the next week or so. But it looks like a very neat structure. I think it's going to be very useful, especially for our new ag teacher. And then our science departments, I'm sure, will be able to take use of it as well. The plan is to do some PBLs. We want to make sure that we're giving kids the opportunity to design what the interior of this looks like. Some systems are going to be put in place for hydroponics and the use of water coming out the gutters. Propane is also available for the heater, and then electric as well. So it's going to be a neat structure. It is a neat structure at this point, and going to continue to just be useful for the students. We will eventually place concrete that will take us from the sidewalk, and there'll be a strip that goes to the door and then through the middle to make it wheelchair accessible as well. While speaking about those things, I just wanted to make a couple notes on some exterior and some building level changes. So I don't know that you guys ever got to see the pictures of our outdoor fitness equipment. I also included those in the folder that I sent to you earlier in the email. These two items that have been added recently, I don't know that we brought pictures to the table for those, so I'm displaying those now. Basically, there's a cycle and a stepper that have been added, and then a balance beam, and then that's in addition to the items that have already been there, which is a kind of a sit-up and Tai Chi wheels, a spinner seat, and then a display board. So that area has been the work of Cindy Stinger and the grants of Health First from Clinton County. She's putting all that together to make an outdoor recreation area. The next step I know she's already been working on, already looking into grants for, is to turf that area so when it gets wet, people will still be able to use it. But the idea is that as people come up and let their kids play at the facility, maybe they have practice across the way at the stadium, some of our adults and our community members and even kids can come over and use these recreational items for exercise purposes. So I just wanted to make sure you guys saw that. And then we were planning on having a meeting in the new PBL lab, or the Project Lead the Way lab that's in the annex. And since we can't have that, I thought I'd include some pictures. So we've been able to paint everything, put new glass in the trophy cases, paint all the doors and the floor and some of the exterior doors that'll go to that room as well. And it just looks awesome. I mean, the space is going to be awesome. Great Oaks is extremely excited about the opportunity to bring this program to us. And again, because we're on the guarantee, I've shown this through documentation, we're going to be able to have this program for no cost, because the foundation money that we're going to lose is going to be made up by the transitional aid guarantee, as long as it stays in place, which as of right now, the intent is that it would stay in place. So that's the greenhouse, along with some other additional updates. The COVID-19 update, I think we've talked about that, so I'm gonna just say, at this point, we put out a quick press release knowing that this information was going to come out probably today. We went ahead and jumped in and let people know that, hey, we kind of saw this coming. We've had lots of conversations. There's no specific decisions that are being made right now, but please know that we're talking about those things. We have a meeting tomorrow at 1:15 as an administrative team, and David's already prepared the agenda to start bringing some more of these questions to the forefront. How it's going to look to finish this year, how are we going to get kids stuff out of their lockers, what's graduation going to look like, how does the summer activities look, what are we going to do to feed students, what does the fall look if we bring back a blended learning, is what the terminology that was used by the governor today, a blended learning experience. So all these questions I know are on the table and on the hearts and minds of parents, community members, board members, staff members. We are diligently working to get those answers as quickly as possible. But as we kind of stated with the graduation concern, we're going to need a couple days to allow guidance to be put forth by the ODE, by the state superintendent. It'll be looked at by legal teams. It'll be looked at by the OSBA and the BASA organizations that give us guidance, as well as the SOESC. So all these updates that are coming here pretty soon, just know that we're working towards those as quick as possible to get people answers as quick as possible. Lastly,
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Real quick question. Jeremy mentioned the 92% or whatever it was outreach. What's going on with that other 8% or whatever kids that we haven't been able to get a hold of?
It's actually 99.2%. So
really,
yeah, we
awesome.
got, and I'm not belittling the 2 or 3 kids that we didn't get a hold of, but it's that few. I mean, there's I think I think there was 3 at the elementary, maybe, and I don't want to speak incorrectly, maybe a couple at the middle school and a couple at the high school. And since then, we've gotten it down to 1 single student, and we've worked with the state, Ohio State troopers and the Clinton County Sheriff's Department. In fact, the very last student that we hadn't gotten a hold of was contacted today by Danny Wood, through the Clinton County Sheriff's Department. The young man was safe and okay. We're communicating with the father to make sure that we can get on the same page with, responding back to questions and concerns and so on and so forth. So, yeah, it's definitely not 8%. It's at this point it's 0, but there are still a few kids that we're having trouble communicating with just because of either lack of internet, lack of minutes on the phone, whatever the issues might be.
Did you guys figure out from your survey what the percent that didn't have internet was, or some other access?
Yeah, we didn't get I don't know that we ever put a percent. I know Mr. Moss is on the call. If you want to jump in, David, feel free. But, the amount is a lot less than we thought it was going to be. If I remember David saying correctly, it was around 100 students that either had limited or no internet access. So at this point, we have been sending out, Cindy Vonderhaar and myself have prepared packets that go out to those students. So if you don't have internet access, that information was received in a survey from each building. So those packets are being mailed to their homes.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. So just to finish up, and then we'll let Cindy jump back in here. So the Falcon Flex update, I don't want to belabor this because I know we have other things on the agenda, but I know that over the last couple of years we've talked about this idea. This year we put it in place, and kind of with the guidance of Mr. Lamb, we said we would kind of look at the end of the year and then maybe even use a 24-month period if needed to decide if that's a good thing as far as putting this plan in place and putting this program in place. So I do want to share a few items. So there's been a folder shared with you. The folder name is called Falcon Flex, but I'm displaying it now for our live stream. We have had a tremendous amount of success. I think it's been an excellent experience so far. I'm sure Mr. Seward would be able to echo that sentiment, and as well as Mrs. Ottaway and even Mrs. Updike in a small capacity. But just to let you know some numbers. So we've finished the school year at this point with 16 high school students, 6 middle school students, and 4 elementary students. So those students are all within the Falcon Flex program. We do have 1 senior that will earn graduation through the process of this program. So it's definitely been a benefit to some of our students to continue earning credits or even finishing up their credits in order to get enough to graduate. And I think Julie Kirby, who runs that program, has done a phenomenal job. She is one of those workers that I just kind of give her a vision for what I want it to either say or look like, and she takes the reins from there and runs with it. Always looking to meet with me, always looking to say, what can we do to get more kids in? She's already sent me emails about reaching out to our homeschool communities going into next year. And just for the benefit of everything going on, I said, hey, way to attack it, but we'll just hold off for now because we got so much going on. So a real go-getter. She's done a great job. Just if you throw out some numbers, and I'm actually going to show you how these numbers are verified by ODE. But if you were to use a rough number of $3,000 per student, that's $78,000. Now, $3,000 is because some students have transitioned out of our school district into Falcon Flex, or out of the traditional school into Falcon Flex for a half year. So we would have lost them to a Govs or an OVA or Odella for a half year. Some of them have been in that position in Falcon Flex all year, so that actually would have been a $6,000 loss. So if you just use the average of $3,000, it's about $78,000 worth of revenue that we're not losing. So I just want to be clear, I'm not saying that we're making money, although we are on the 3 open enrollment students that are in Falcon Flex. That's money that's coming in as revenue, but it's the fact that we're not losing revenue. So also, this information has been sent to you, but I'm going to display my screen in order to just kind of show you this in full. Okay. Everybody able to see the can? And for those of you that can't see, again, this was sent to you via email. In 2019, I used April #1 payment. So I want to be very clear that this is an apples to apples comparison. It's the April #1 payment. There's 2 payments in April. So what I'm displaying right now is from fiscal year 2019 on a pink copy. And in the mid part of that paper, you can see highlighted areas that give you the open enrollment dollars to the positive, open enrollment dollars to the negative, and then community school transfer. So that's different, just to make sure we all understand. Open enrollment adjusted negative would be people going to like Blanchester or Wilmington. Community school transfer would be online schools, because we do not have community schools within our school district. There is no Life Skills or Doan Community School within Clinton Massey. So we're talking about kids leaving to go to OVA or Govs. That was $257,000 last year, with a total transfer of negative $99,000. So our open enrollment wasn't able to overcome the total transfer of those 2 items, meaning the kids lost to other public school districts and the kids going to online. Since we've implemented this program, and again, I want to note here, under fiscal year 2020, this is the April #1 payment. So it's the same. In fact, it was only 2 days difference. One was April 10th, one was April 12th. So we're using an apples to apples comparison, and you're going to see that enrollment for open enrollment to the positive has went up to $977,000. Open enrollment to the negative has went down to $489,000. And then the community school transfer is negative $182,000 compared to the 257, which gives you a total transfer out of positive 162. And I've noted here on the bottom, that means we're up $177,000 in open enrollment. We're down $39,000 of open enrollment leaving our school district. And then we're down in revenue lost to community schools of $75,000. So I would say those items, along with the benefits that it's been to the kids, a benefit that it's been to me as we go through the expulsion process, I've been able to move kids over to Falcon Flex instead of losing that touch with that young man or young lady. So we're not just throwing kids back out to the public. We're able to keep them in, even if they're being disciplined, and keep them with Clinton Massey work to do. So that's a benefit that we haven't had in the past by implementing the Falcon Flex plan. Also, there's a few other items that are specific to Falcon Flex. It was noted to me earlier in the year to help Mrs. Kirby just clarify a few of the procedures that we're doing moving forward with Falcon Flex, and those things have been included in your Falcon Flex folder. Those are still in draft form right now, but they are helping people understand what a Falcon Flex student is, how you become a part of Falcon Flex, when students have the ability to transfer to Falcon Flex, and a brochure that we can give to parents, especially if they're a homeschool parent, to let them know what the Falcon Flex program is. Also, Mrs. Kirby is in charge of apprenticeships and internships for our students through Falcon Flex as well. And I've included for you a brochure that she's going to use moving forward. And what's neat about this, I'm kind of excited to share this, it has our students on it. So this is not just a program now in name, it's a program in essence from us. It's something that has legs to it, and we can point back to and say these kids have gone through this process and they're better for it. So I'm really excited about that. This is something that I'm excited for us to move forward in the near future to expanding this program, which allows Clinton Massie students, in this case Clinton Massie seniors, to go and start apprenticeships and internships to prepare themselves for the workforce or eventually higher learning if that's their choice. But Julie's doing a great job creating those community partnerships. She's met with tremendous amount of businesses throughout the year, whether they're in Wilmington, she's gone all the way up to Washington Courthouse, Lebanon, obviously those in Clinton Massie that we can work with as well. But she's really doing a great job reaching out to these businesses to say, hey, let one of our kids come and talk to you, interview, set up an intern or apprenticeship with you. Apprenticeship means there's a paid position. Internship means it's just for credit only. But I just wanted to kind of show you this and moving forward, just to bring all together and really help you understand the benefits of us investing in this position at the start of this school year. Any questions over those 4 update items?
No, man, I would just touch on the Falcon Flex and if we rewind back to, when we went through the interview process to actually bring you in, I think we talked about this through the interview process with the candidates and also once you were hired. This is something that's kind of been, on my back burner as a board member for some time. And, this engaging the community, getting our kids out in the community, working for businesses, building skills, and then also reaching out to those kids that are either homeschool or have for some reason become disconnected from the district where we're losing money to other virtual schools, et cetera. Not only is this a positive for us from a revenue stream standpoint, it's also a positive for us engaging our community, bringing those businesses in, and it also benefits our kids. So, when we talked this back when we brought you on board, I couldn't have envisioned it any better. To get this off the ground and be so successful, at least in the first go, is pretty impressive. So I would just like to thank everybody connected with that, not only our staff, but also the businesses that we're working with for these internships. And the parents that are allowing us the opportunity to, educate their kids through a virtual means. It's a win-win-win, if you will. And again, I'm pretty excited about it because I know it's something we've talked about and it's something that we've had kind of on the back burner for quite a few years since I've been on the board, and now to actually be implementing it is very exciting. So I just want to, again, a huge thank you out to everyone who's been involved for making this success so far.
Excellent. I think Cindy is back on the line. So,
all right.
Mrs. Running, is it okay if you jump back in to finish your board report?
Yes, apparently everybody in the house got on the internet at the same time.
That's the new norm right there.
Yeah. So I just have a few quick things I did want to mention. We are doing a virtual athletic banquet on May 14th. Just because we can't have spring sports doesn't mean we can't recognize our athletes. So I'm working on a virtual athletic banquet where we can recognize athletes for the entire year, including spring sports. So I'm pulling that together now. I know I'll have to be calling on some expertise of others in the district to pull that together so we can present that. On Thursday night, the schools from the SBAC did a Be the Light activity where we turned on the lights in the stadium at 2020 military time for 20 minutes to honor this the seniors who are missing out on a lot of their senior activities. We turned on for 20 minutes. We took lots of pictures. We recognized them. And in addition, honored the first responders and healthcare workers who are going above and beyond for all the people in our community. So all of the schools in the SBAC participated in that together. So that was a nice activity. You'll see in the coaching recommendations that I put forward, I'm recommending a JV boys soccer coach. We haven't hired a JV boys soccer coach in recent years. We haven't needed one, but our numbers are way up from in the past, and I anticipate that happening again. We had 30 boys up for soccer last year, have had great success We won the league last year. I anticipate that success continuing. So I have recommended that we hire a reserve boys soccer coach. So if you see that, that's why. I just think there's a great need for that. And then we're in the process of hiring both a varsity girls and boys basketball coach. We're in a unique position right now in that I don't feel a great hurry to hire somebody. We won't be able to have open gyms. We won't be having camps. So we'll be able to take our time. The advantage there is that we may be able to find a teacher coach. There's some teaching positions open, and we have the benefit of being able to see if there's a match in both positions. Sometimes you get in a hurry, you just have to find a coach so we can get the summer going, we can get camps going. Well, we have a little bit of time to work with right now. So we're taking advantage of that, and I'm working with the administrators to see if we have some good matches in both areas. So that's why we're not hiring too quickly for those positions. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, I wrote a grant and received a grant for to bring in proactive coaching to do a workshop with our coaches and captains. We scheduled it for June 9th. Clearly that's not going to be workable, but proactive coaching is willing to juggle some dates with us. We may end up doing that later in the year. But they came in last year. I saw a huge impact on the way a lot of our coaches worked with their young people. I saw a big impact in the way some of our athletes were able to respond to their coaches. So we thought it would be worth it to invest more in that. So we'll see yet if we're able to pull that through. So much of the information I put in your packet was a contingency plan. If school continued back into session, so much of that is a moot point at this point. So unless there's any questions, I think that's all I have.
Hey, Sydney, it's Kathleen. So you got cut off really early on. You had just started talking about the High School Athletic Association. Did you have any more to say about their governance or anything? Did you hear the part where I was talking about they were worried about access to physicals, nothing to be able to get physicals? No, missed that. Okay, all right. What the OHSAA is a little concerned about now is fall sports and what impact this, what impact all of this will have on fall sports. One of their concerns is, will athletes be able to have physicals? With all the doctor's offices being closed and, emergency only type of situation. So are they going to have to extend the life of their current physicals? Will they extend the quiet period? What that means is right now there's a quiet period. Coaches are not allowed to have active, they can speak to their athletes virtually, but they can't meet with their athletes. Will they extend that period past August 1st? They're also concerned that a lot of non-school related businesses, so to speak, summer leagues, so to speak, are they're concerned that they'll very aggressively participate in some teams and activities that are not monitored so closely, and will that affect the spread of disease? And they're cautioning schools to be careful about letting them use their facilities, that type of thing. So there's a lot of things that the OHSAA is forming committees to study. Sanitization of the artificial turf, that's another thing they're researching to see if that's something that they need to be concerned about or not. So like us, they have a lot of things they need to research. So with summer leagues and stuff, does that normally go through you when they try to schedule to use facilities and things? Not too much as far as at Clinton Massey, except for there are a couple of soccer leagues that do rent
rent our turf. The two that we rent to have voluntarily closed down. They stopped voluntarily. They said, this is not, we can't do this. So they have not, again, asked us to rent.
I got it. Thanks.
And we also moved our cheerleading tryouts back. We typically do that in April. We've moved those back to probably August 1st at the earliest, but there again, we're playing that by ear too, just to see what comes our way.
Right.
All right. Any other questions? All right, next is public participation. Do we have anyone that's interested in publicly participating? All right, we'll take that as a no. So moving on to superintendent and committee reports. Communication, curriculum, and technology.
So we did not meet on that topic. We met, but we ended up covering personnel the whole time. So I'll turn that over to you, Jeremy.
Yeah, so next is negotiation policy and personnel. So personnel committee did meet. As you see, we have some retirements, things like that. So we did talk some different personnel needs for the district that Matt has brought up. Again, they're personnel, so we can't really talk about them, but we do have some openings, and we'll be looking for the most qualified candidates. So building, grounds, and transportation.
Did not meet.
Finance.
We did meet. I don't know that I'll go through the couple of the topics, but honestly, I think Carrie already hit the majority of these when she went through her treasurer's report. Obviously, the big item we talked about was the financial implications of shutdown, and I won't go into too much more detail, but basically the still gathering the numbers around the savings. We definitely think there's going to be some pretty sizable savings, maybe a couple $100,000. But the piece that we're worried the most about is that as folks have been, laid off from jobs, businesses are closed. We'll have some savings from, the things like not paying for diesel fuel and paying for subs, but those are probably going to be offset by folks that have lost their jobs and getting delayed tax payments. So not that we won't recognize those savings, but I think those savings are probably going to be offset in the short term by those lower tax payments, and then hopefully we'll get those caught up. So just kind of wanted to mention that. That's probably the biggest piece. We did talk a little bit about the phone system, which she mentioned that as well. The big thing about the phone system, it's over, I guess it's 16 years old. So, as that system needs replaced, getting some bids and looking at different options to replace the phone system. Let's see. Mr. Moss came and talked about the Chromebooks. So we continue to move off of Windows devices to Chromebooks and the savings associated with that. Just kind of reviewed some of that with us. Although the price of the Chromebooks obviously go down as well as over time, but also from Windows devices. But we still are spending money on software licenses, warranty support, and so on. But great news on the cost of those Chromebooks as well, and then a few other very small items. But in general, I think that's probably the financial updates. Any questions for me or?
Any questions for Mike? All right. We'll move on to other school business. So I'll give it back to Matt, and he can walk us through these policy updates.
Sure. So as we went through our first read last time, I mentioned and kind of separated that there was a policy that we had to discuss for permissive language. And hopefully everybody has read over that, but it's policy IND/INDA, which is specific to school ceremonies and observances for patriotic exercises. And the item that is permissive language, there's actually two permissive language items noted. One is include or don't include, and the other one is there are two choices to the language that the board has to decide which way it would like to go. So I can explain to you what we currently have, and then the board can discuss, how we would like to move forward. Under patriotic exercises, again, I'm in IND/INDA. We have to choose one of the two paragraphs. One states that the board requires all students, grades kindergarten through 12, to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and the rest of that is noted there in the paragraph. What we currently have, which is again a choice of permissive language from these two paragraphs, choice 2, which is our current status, would be the board does not require the daily recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. However, the board encourages reciting of the pledge on a regular basis as determined by the classroom teacher or building principal. So again, the board would have to decide to continue the language that is currently in policy, or it does have a choice to make permissive language, which would then enact the Pledge of Allegiance being recited during the school day at any time and manner, but that would be for all grades K through 12.
So yeah, so is there? I mean, I guess from my perspective, I am fine with leaving the current language. I don't know if there's other viewpoints on the board or not, but has everybody had a chance to read them and understand the differences in the two?
Yeah, I'm okay with the current language as well, I think. So Jeremy, how does this work from an approval perspective? If we have two things in front of us, we have to propose one of them for the vote, correct?
Yeah, so what we would do is propose one, put that before the board for a vote. If it passes unanimously, or with a more than three members or more, then I'm not sure what the point is to vote on the alternative language. If that makes sense.
Right.
So at this point, we currently have this language in the policy. So if you approve the policy, you'll be approving the language that you're choosing at this point.
Right.
Yeah. The other item is again permissive in the sense that it's include or do not include, and that's the item under moment of silence. So again, what we currently have is an inclusion of this statement of the board may provide for a moment of silence with participation of students for prayer, reflection, or meditation upon a moral, philosophical, or patriotic theme. So we currently have that in place. So by approving the draft version of the INDA, you would want to approve the permissive language as voted upon by two choices, and then approve to include or continue to include the moment of silence verbiage.
So hold on here and scroll back down to that policy. Hold on.
Sure.
So just to make sure I understand, so currently we have, again, in under patriotic exercises, it says choose one of the following two paragraphs.
Yep.
Currently we have the first paragraph and then the current language, which does not require the daily recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. However, the board, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
In a district, so then if I scroll down here, Matt, I'm looking for the language. So under school prayer.
Yep. One more down. So under permissive language, moment of silence, it's either inclusion of that statement or to remove that statement. There isn't a second choice. It's either you have it in or you don't.
So essentially, under this this whole item, then we have several policies which we can approve without discussion. We have IND or IN/INDA that needs to either can be approved as is, which would include the current language on Pledge of Allegiance, but we would need to then include the moment of silence language if the board so desires. Correct? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine either way. If you do INDA in draft status, then you would have to create, you would have to make the choice of whether to keep the current language and to include the moment of silence. If you don't take it as draft status, if you take it as INDA as it's currently in place, you wouldn't have to make any changes because those are the two items that are already included.
Right. So at least from my standpoint, I would just approve the policy as is without any changes.
Right.
So Matt, why is October 1st circled on the draft? Is that a change or is that?
Yeah, because it
What
was, it's bolded, so that noted a change.
What did it used to say? Do you remember? I don't remember what that was when we looked at it.
Actually, I have it right here. 1 second. It actually does not state a date currently. So the current school prayer says the board certifies that it does not have nor will it adopt any policies that deny or prevent participation in constitutionally protected school prayer. This certification is submitted annually to the Ohio Department of Education. So I think they just made a note of give it a date.
Right. So again, I guess from at least my perspective and having read through it, then I would not recommend any changes. So we just approve the policy as is, not the draft, right?
And yeah, unless you guys want to make a change as noted by the discussion that's available during this policy update period.
So is there any board member that wants to make a change to the language? I, for one, would not. Okay.
So in that case, the rest of the policies would be included as just language changes.
Right. So we can approve it all as one.
Yep.
All right. Then under 5B, under policy updates, I would motion to approve policies listed under section 1. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And a second.
Gorman will second.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Hearing none, Carrie, would you call the roll?
Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Mrs. Norman,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Goodall,
Yes.
Mr. Gorman.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to personnel items.
Okay, I'm asking for approval under item A to approve the following substitutes as listed.
All right. You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
So that's Andy and Kathleen.
Mhm.
Any questions? Hearing none, Carrie, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Norman,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Goodall,
Yes.
Mr. Gorman,
Yes.
Mr. Lamb.
Yes.
Just making a note under item B, so I'm asking for approval of the retirements of the 3 ladies listed. And unfortunately, we would usually have some sort of presentation with each one of them being invited to the board to appreciate them for their time and their effort with the school district. And as you know, we're not able to do that this evening. If I could just speak very, very briefly, each one of these ladies has given, multiple decades of years of experience to Clinton Massie local schools, from, Brenda Jones being an aide in the school district for a long time, Carol Rickey being one of our speech language pathologists, and Sheila Fankhauser being a special education teacher for over 30 years for us. Just 3 great ladies. Not leaving for any bad terms, just time for them in their hearts and their minds to retire, and they will all 3 be missed. But we are asking for their approval of retirements.
All right, and I would say, Matt, well, obviously when we have the opportunity to get back together, if we can invite them in to formally recognize them in front of everybody, I think that'd be great. But as you said, for now, we'll do it virtually. So,
Absolutely.
all right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right. Any questions? Hearing none, Carrie, would you call the roll?
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Goodall,
Yes.
Mr. Gorman,
Yes.
Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Mrs. Norman.
yes,
Under improvement of employment, item numbers 1, 2, and 3. Items 1 and 2 are kindergarten teachers, employment for next year. One of the positions is made available because we extended the only half-day section to a full day. The other position is because we had a teacher in the kindergarten team take a job in the first grade here at Clinton Massey Elementary. So we were asking for approval of Donna Adams and James Hof. Just a note, Donna Adams is a resident of the school district, has students in the school district. So it kind of continues to promote my mentality of, hey, we want to build people that or we want to get people on board that are here for a long, long time. You know, we want people invested. And when you can bring in a resident that lives about 20 seconds from the school district, literally right down the road on the other side of the four-way stop, who has kids in the school district, you believe that they're going to be invested for a long time. Also, Kim Green has done this position this last year, this educational aid position, which is what is the elementary makerspace, the media center. So when Sherry Ford left the elementary to come to the middle school makerspace, Kim Green has filled in for her on a 4 out of 5 day basis, and we are asking to continue that for next school year.
All right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion to that effect?
so moved,
And a second? Not all at once.
Second.
All right, any questions? Hearing none, Carrie, would you call the roll?
Mr. Goodall,
Yes.
Mr. Gorman,
Yes.
Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Mrs. Norman,
yes,
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Okay, moving on to item D, approve supplemental employment. So this would be for D1.
All right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, Carrie, would you call the roll?
Mr. Gorman,
Yes.
Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Mrs. Norman,
yes,
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Goodall,
Yes.
And then under D, there is an item 2, a separate item to be voted on as well.
All right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, Carrie, would you call the roll?
Mr. Lamb,
Abstain.
Mrs. Norman,
yes,
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Goodall,
Yes.
Mr. Gorman,
Yes.
Under E, approve volunteers. I'm asking for the approval of Barry Wolf as a high school football volunteer.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And a second?
second,
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, Carrie, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Norman,
yes,
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Goodall,
Yes.
Mr. Gorman,
Yes.
Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Under item F, we're asking to approve the leave of absence requested, which is FMLA for Marcia Jacoby.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion to that effect?
so moved,
And a second?
Second.
Gorman will second.
All right. Any questions? Hearing none, Carrie, would you call the roll?
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Goodall,
Yes.
Mr. Gorman,
Yes.
Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Mrs. Norman,
yes,
Okay, under item G, I'm asking for the approval of administrative contracts starting in the 2021 school year. As noted in your packet, we have a kind of a two-way rotation of administrative contracts. There's people like, David Moss is on one that's already been done, Stephen Ford that's already been done, and then there's a whole nother group of people that are up for this contract this year, and those are noted in the recommendations I sent via email. And then Cindy Running is actually on this call, but her and I have talked about her contract, and that will be up, or that'll be put into the administrative contract request and recommendations for next meeting.
Okay. All right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, any questions? Hearing none, Carrie, would you call the roll?
Mr. Goodall,
Yes.
Mr. Gorman,
Yes.
Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Mrs. Norman,
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
And Mr. Lamb, if I could just note one more thing, we have a fantastic administrative staff. The SLT, the senior leadership team, has just gone above and beyond anything you could possibly imagine, from taking phone calls till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night if needed, to running up here to the school to make sure kids are getting food distributed to them, making sure that kids are getting their questions answered and concerns addressed. It's just been unbelievable. So the fact that we're going to continue our relationship with these administrators that I've noted here in the recommendation, and then the ones that have already been approved from last year, I think we have a very, very, very strong administrative team that is fully committed to Clinton Massie local schools wholeheartedly. So just know that your kids are in good hands. That's for certain.
Yep, thanks, Matt.
Then under new business, we do have first reads on the policies there. Carrie, did you want to speak on those in any way?
Sure. The first one is BDC on executive sessions. Basically, it's just a verbiage change. They're taking out discussing students. So it's just taking out student and then putting the or in a different place. And then for BDDG, it's about the minutes. They are taking out some of the language and basically condensing it down to that full and accurate minutes must contain sufficient facts and information to permit the public to understand and appreciate the rationale behind the board's decisions. And then at the end, instead of making them available to interested citizens, it's the public and news media. Those are the two changes there. So this is the first read, and then we'll put these on next month for your approval.
Okay.
Anybody have
So
any
Jeremy?
questions on that?
Yeah, I do on that one. So on the one on minutes, I was doing some research on this one, and I'd kind of like to take this one to the policy committee meeting to kind of understand and talk through I know this is legal language where it says contains sufficient facts and information to permit the public to understand and appreciate the rationale. I mean, the paragraph that they're taking out gave us kind of like a bullet list of things to make sure we were doing. This has made it more vague, but it also, it makes total sense that we want to make sure that anybody looking at the minutes can understand why we did what we did. But I kind of feel like we should talk through that so that we're able to give Carrie guidance on what that would mean in terms of what we're doing. I know that from something that I read, technically our audio tape is considered a public record, and that could be considered our official minutes. And in that case, it would cover everything. But if that's the case, we need to make sure that we recognize that's the official minutes. And I know we've been getting them uploaded and everything, but I just kind of want to talk through some of the details on that so that we know we're covered if audio breaks down or, we know exactly what we're capturing or what we expect Carrie to capture. And she's the one, we don't have a communications person that's hired by the district to keep track of this stuff for us. I've seen minutes from other school districts that were super detailed, but it was an employee that wasn't having to manage the stuff that Carrie's managing. They had their own separate job. And we've also talked in the communications committee about wanting to put out more school board communications. And so again, this kind of falls under that as well, that it would help us in knowing what exactly we're putting out there. So that's a really long way of saying, Jeremy and Mr. Baker and Carrie, I'd like to us in the committee as well.
Sure, that's fine. And I would just like to show that in the policy, it does say that the official minutes shall be bound and kept in the office of the treasurer. So I'm not quite sure if we can do.
Yeah, well, and it also says written, the very first sentence says we're going to keep a written record of board action. So I almost have a legal question over whether, are we allowed to take that word out and we just say we have a record? Do we, legally, I think legally we have 3 different ways to do it, but we need to figure out which one is our official way and then figure out what other documentation you've got, Carrie, that we need to make sure mirrors that.
Sure, I will talk to Kenna OSBA and get some clarification on that before we do a policy meeting.
Yeah, and if you've got any kind of guidelines, just the type of things that you're capturing in conversation, if it is the documented record. I know we kind of catch some of the discussion, but I don't know that we actually, when we do the documented piece, that you can understand the rationale. So for example, last month we talked about the bond issue. So it shows that we passed it, but we don't really have any rationale for why we passed it. So I just, I just want to figure that stuff out, just have another conversation about it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that and clarify. Kathleen, that's fine.
That's all I had on the policies. The new one.
We'll work offline with Matt to schedule that. It'll probably maybe not this Friday, but maybe the next Friday. So once Carrie's able to get some feedback as well. All right. All right. Any other things that come before the board? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on. I would motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll take a second on
Okay.
that.
All right. All right. Any questions? Hearing none, Carrie, would you call the roll?
Mr. Gorman? Mr. Gorman?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mrs. Norman?
Yeah.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Goodall?
Yes.
All right. We are adjourned at 9:13. Next meeting is May 18th at 7:30.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Stay healthy and stay safe.
Thank you.
Yep.